On a different framework and different level, it's important also to consider the fact that there are different ways for citizens to engage and for learners to engage. And we can look at this ladder of participation, for example, that was made by Arnstein in 1969, in which we can see how we can start at the bottom of the ladder with basically no participation and start climbing up the ladder until we are able to define citizen control and allow leadership and empowerment. On this regard, it's important to note that ocean literacy aims to achieve multiple levels of participation in which we're not only informing, but we're somehow developing partnerships and collaborations and genuine engagement as citizens are able to climb up that ladder for ocean sustainability. It's very important also to make sure that we collaborate not only within the ocean sector, not only within our marine sector or fisheries or so forth, but we also are able to collaborate within other sectors beyond the ocean sector, land-based sectors that may also be influencing the ocean. A third and final framework that we can talk about is this framework by Planeta Oceano that identifies 4 key components for community engagement and ownership. And that is the co-creation and co-design of ocean literacy initiatives, working together with multiple stakeholders in a horizontal knowledge exchange, identifying and investing local leaders, and working together with them to promote multiplier effects. So it is within this, for example, that the Marine Educators Network of Northern Peru co-creates and develops lesson plans within schools, and then works in terms of collaborating with multiple partners in knowledge exchanges, and leading teachers are identified and supported in order to promote multiplier effects within their communities. And in the same way, local fishermen working in manta ray ecotourism, for example, co-create their services and exchange knowledge, and leading fishermen are identified to later promote conservation messages within their community. So it's important also to recognize that these 3 frameworks are only an example, and there are many frameworks out there in which ocean literacy can be embedded and should be embedded, including but not limited to climate change education, education for sustainable development, biodiversity education, sustainable livelihood education, amongst many others. In each of these, it's very important that we make sure that we infuse ocean issues within classrooms, within non-formal contexts as well. And when we're talking about the ocean and we're talking about how to move forward with ocean literacy, not just in non-formal context, but also in educational formal contexts, it's important that we see how we will communicate about the ocean. And of course, we need to communicate about the ocean in a way that is based on sound science and that is technical, but it's also very important for us to make sure that we communicate about an ocean in a way that people feel engaged, in a way that people and learners feel that the ocean connects to them as individuals, in a way that there are stories or emotions that can drive us and captivate us regarding the ocean. And whenever possible, create opportunities, for example, for nature immersion, for nature-based learning, or if nature-based learning is not available at the moment, we can always work through art, through documentaries, to make people get closer to the ocean and learn more about the ocean in a practical way. It's also very important that we make sure that learners understand and justify the urgency, for example, of sustaining our ocean, but that we also create opportunities in learning for people to understand that there are opportunities to act and that everybody has a role to play within ocean literacy. And finally, as we move forward, it's very important to recognize that ocean literacy is not just about learning or it's about teaching, but it's really about generating impact and creating that platform for learners to be able to generate impact by themselves. And within this, it's very important to recognize the theory of change or systems change. And when driving our programs, understand what is this theory of change behind our programs? What are the problems or the issues that we want to bring to the learners? And what are the key solutions that the learners can bring to the environment as well? What steps need to be taken in order to approach these issues or these environmental challenges? And within the same arena, we can start thinking about strategic planning within our own ocean literacy programs, both in non-formal and formal contexts. What are the goals? What are the objectives of the things that we want to achieve together with the learners? And in this, it's very important to make sure that we are monitoring, that we are evaluating our initiatives, that we are creating feedback and a sort of positive feedback loop that can help us and sustain our initiatives in the long term. We have already talked about the transdisciplinary approaches that ocean literacy has, and it's very important for us to recognize the need for having transdisciplinary collaborations as well, which can range from collaborating with scientists, collaborating with traditional communities, collaborating with different maritime sectors in order to enhance the learning experiences. Of course, we need trusted resources, we need sound science when we're working with some specific ocean science components. And it's very important to make sure that we understand that we can develop impact on multiple levels, on the short term, on the medium term, and on the long term. So short term, for example, in developing activities or trainings or an awareness campaign. And in the long term, thinking about how we can change, for example, the public perception towards the ocean, or how we can increase ocean literacy within our students. It's important to recognize that these transformational changes take time and that we should be measuring at every step of the way, from short to medium to long-term impact. And finally, it's important for us to recognize that ocean literacy needs also sustained efforts in the long term. And we need to recognize this on an institutional level, on a personal level, on a collective level, and recognize that the ocean needs a sustained future. The ocean needs sustainability. And if we want to make sure that the ocean is sustainable in the long term, we also need to make sure that our own actions are sustainable in the long term as well.